Okay, the story really starts in 1804, which is Aaron Burr's very bad year. At the beginning of the year, he learns that he's not going to be a candidate for vice president for the next election, which will be at the end of the year. It's not a complete surprise. He knows that he hasn't been getting along very well with Jefferson, and Jefferson really didn't enjoy that tied election they had back in 1800. Burr decides but it's disappointing. Burr decides he's going to run for governor of New York and rehabilitate his political career. He runs, he gets crushed. He loses by the largest margin anybody's lost up to that point in New York history. While he is nursing that particular wound, he reads a newspaper article that reports a statement made by Alexander Hamilton during the campaign. Now, just quickly, Hamilton had been saying terrible things about Burr for about 12 years. It was something he did. He said Burr was corrupt, Burr was a liar, and Burr was power mad. He had different ways of saying it, but that was his triumvirate of observations about Burr that he repeated over and over and over. Interestingly, there is no surviving record of anything nasty that Burr ever said about Hamilton. In any event, this newspaper story in 1804 says Hamilton said the usual things. Burr is corrupt, Burr is a liar, Burr is crazy for power. An embryo Caesar was a phrase Hamilton liked. But then it said something else. Hamilton is supposed to have said that, and I have an opinion of this gentleman that's still more despicable. Now, despicable is not a word that strikes the modern ear as particularly terrible. But in 1804, it meant sexual perversion. Now, don't press me as to what brand of sexual perversion. It apparently covered a variety. But it was an extremely offensive term to use. A corresponding term used today would be viewed as extraordinarily offensive. And Burr wrote a very stiff note to Hamilton saying, I see this report of what you said. You must retract that, explain it, or meet me on a field of honor, a duel. Burr had made such demands of Hamilton twice before, and both times Hamilton had retracted his previous or reported remark. On this occasion, Hamilton did not. And he wrote back rather a mealy-mouthed response. They exchanged a few more letters, and after about 3 weeks of foreplay, they met in the famous duel. Now, we know that Hamilton lost the duel. It's not as clear that Burr won it, because he was stunned to find afterwards, just within a day, that by winning the duel, he had converted Hamilton into a martyr. And he became a tremendous hero. Hamilton's political career had been ruined by this point in his life, and suddenly he was the equivalent of a secular saint. Sir.
I wanted to ask, how close is the historical Burr to the Burr in Gore Vidal's book? And in particular, I got the implication, as far as I remember, that the despicable behavior was some kind of incestuous relationship between Burr and his daughter. So I was wondering what you could tell us about that.
The question is, how accurate do I think Gore Vidal's version of Burr is in his novel from 30 years ago? I haven't read it for 30 years. I didn't want to read it when I did the book because I didn't want Gore Vidal polluting my mind. I admired the book then. My sense is, from my recollection, I think he probably got Burr reasonably well. The question also asked, what about the element of that novel where he suggests that Hamilton was implying that Burr was sleeping with his daughter, that there was incest, and that's when he said he had an opinion still more despicable. That's what he meant. Vidal has been very clear in interviews saying he made that up. He has no evidence to support it. I have seen no evidence to support it. I actually think it's a very smart hunch. I think that could well be what it was, because nothing would have upset Burr more than that implication. But we don't have evidence.